super late, but I really want to talk about this. So what I want to talk about right now is my first playthrough, or the first impression I got from the first two chapters. Effectively, the route I got was Voice of the Smitten. I mean, the narrator is so super overt in this. Normally, you wouldn't expect that in a game, right? Like, there's all this talk about how you want to make games immersive, how you want it to feel real, how it is supposed to be a form of escapism, and then there comes Slay the Princess. And what the fuck? I mean, like, the narrator is not even trying to hide its presence. That's like some meta level bullshit. It breaks the norm and breaking it again. Like, what the hell? We are not supposed to notice the narrator, but right now we are being made as explicitly aware of the fact that there is a narrator. And then there's the story about someone special trying to reach the princess, but it breaks the norm again by making us slay the princess, or rather telling us to slay the princess rather than trying to save her. What the hell? We are being made aware that this is a game. We are being made aware that we are in a game. And then we are being told explicitly that this is a story about us as special beings who are trying to reach the princess. And it breaks the norm again by telling us that we have to slay the princess. We are not going to save her. And that in itself reminds me of that idea when it comes to game development. You take a story, you take some existing mechanic, you put a twist on it, and voila, you have got something new and original. And it's being so explicitly aware in that there is a voice of the hero in our head who's basically telling us that this is not what we are supposed to do. What the hell, man? So I do as any sane person would do. Well, I think what any sane person would do. I ask why we have to slay the princess. That makes no sense. And the narrator goes like, "You just have to. Trust me, bro." Basically, what happens is even if different choices are accepted, even if we make different choices, it doesn't really matter in the end, does it? All roads lead to Rome. All the choices lead to the same outcome. At the end of the day, the player wins. The player wins in more or less the same fashion. There's only so much they can do, there are only so many choices they can make, and they only have so limited impact. They tend to give more of an illusion of the choice rather than actually giving us the choice. So we don't get any actual choice in a video game, in most video games. On the overall playthrough, especially not. Very little influence on where the overall playthrough goes. That's what we end up with. That is where our choices end up leading us. In this story, it is most directly shown to us with the idea of the narrator taking control of our character. The narrator takes control of us and achieves the objective, or well, tries to achieve the objective. That is what most directly shows us this idea. And the fact that we get a repeat playthrough, that is another reference to the idea that a player actually gets infinite choices. They, no matter what choice they make, they can always just redo things, they can always just retry. It doesn't matter. The NPCs don't get the same choice, but we as the players do. And that makes a hell of a difference because that again reflects the very idea that choices are meaningless in games like these. No matter what choice we make, we can always just go back and fix that. No problemo. However, that's where I end up being wrong. In this particular game, our choices do matter. A world ends up destroyed. The princess confirms it. She destroyed the world. What the fuck? How? No idea. Just trust me, bro. I did it. The mechanics don't matter, but this time the choices mattered. Except, did they? We don't get to meet anyone apart from us and the princess. Sure, there's the voice of the hero, there's the voice of the narrator, but those are voices in our head. We can talk to them, but the princess cannot see us. That is the most direct proof of that, in my opinion. So, basically, meaning that is there anyone else in this whole world? We don't actually make a single reference to anyone else. I have tried to run away from it, but we always end up back at the same place. All choices lead to Rome. All paths lead to the princess. That's what ends up happening. Always, always, always. No matter what. Sure, a world was killed, so our choice mattered, but did it matter? Was there anyone else that actually lived in that world? Anyone? Maybe, considering that the door was closed on on our back. When we went to the basement, the door got closed. Sure. So maybe someone does. The knife was thrown in there, but at the same time, we don't get to see anyone. Knife is just conveniently there at the right place at the right time. Why did anyone leave the knife in the cabin? Why did it get thrown into the basement? Why cannot we just break through the door? In a later playthrough, I do see that the princess eventually does break the door. What is the issue with us breaking through the door? Like, what the hell? There is no actual issue with all of that. Except that won't be where the game wants us to go. So we don't get to go. That's what a lot of games do, right? They just place a barrier or block us from exploring areas which we are not supposed to. That's where we end up. That's what ends up happening with us in most games. Once the game wants us to be fixed on a path, it comes up with clever ways to block us. Door is closed, there is rubble, there is absolutely nothing like a cavern or stuff like that. There's sea and we don't know how to swim, whatever, stuff like that. That's just what ends up happening in every single game. The choices end up being meaningless. If it cannot be any more on the nose, there is this idea that when the narrator takes control of us and we try to resist, most of our choices are to try to slay the princess. Most pretty much 99% of the options we get is to try to slay the princess. That's about it. And on our second playthrough of that chapter, we don't even get that option. We don't have that choice. We tried to make I tried to make my own choice by trying to resist the narrator. And when I went to my second playthrough of the first two chapters, I actually had that option no more. Another thing I want to comment on is that when I tried to investigate the princess's desires in the second chapter of my first playthrough, no matter what, she her response indicated she just exists to serve us, to make us happy. That is what the game and the NPCs and all the illusions allude to. So yeah, since I forgot to record the footage for the first playthrough, this is my interpretation based on my memory. And then there is also the what the thing we get at the end, the lady at the end. On one level, she reminds me of the idea of a lot of religions say about God and all that stuff. I don't want to go too deep into that because I don't want to get cancelled or whatever. On another, she is the personification of the narrative of the game itself, considering that she collects the perspectives.